Big welcome back to our free live classes, 12 o'clock every Wednesday. So delighted to have you here. So anybody that's watching, I'd really appreciate if you comment below. Let us know your name, where you're watching in from, and obviously here at Case Flower School, we love to hear the weather around the country and around the world. For anybody that's new joining us, my name is Janette. I'm from Case Flower School, and we have Deirdre behind the camera. You're going to say hello there, Deirdre. Give them a shout.
Hi guys.
Okay, so the idea of this class is to try and keep it as simple as possible. Like obviously we have people who are watching who are professionals, so this probably would be a little bit more beginner standard for yourself. And again, we have people who are just dabbling around with flowers for the fun of it. So we're kind of going to keep this very simple and very informal. I do have a selection of kind of like summer, spring flowers, but obviously you can substitute it for depending on what time of the year that you're watching it at. Because what we do is when we do these live classes, we upload them to our YouTube channel. Here at the moment, we're across all social media pages, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and you name it, we're normally on it. But we do have our own separate YouTube channel, and all you have to do is search YouTube Case Flower School and you will find us. And we have hundreds of videos up there. But also for anybody that would like some information on the treatment and conditioning of flowers, we also have a free online program that you can download. So the best thing to do is in the comments below, just ask us any chance of the link. Give us the link. I'd like the link. I want the link. Say whatever you want. Just use the word link, okay? And we will make sure that we will respond back to you. It's not always possible to respond to all the comments during a live class, you know that way. But anybody that has joined us before, you know that we do get back to everybody. Now we do need you to do us one little favour, and that little favour is to share our video. So when you're going to share this video either on your own social media pages, on Instagram or Facebook or even on TikTok. If you're watching on TikTok, we'd love if you invited people. If you're watching on YouTube, what about some stars or some stickers or some love hearts? And again, if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, share it either on your own page or even in a group that you happen to be a member of. So this is a container, and normally when I use containers, they're always containers from the wholesalers. But I actually picked this up in a furniture shop down in Ranelagh in Dublin, Helen Turkington. So again, anybody happens to be around Dublin, well, you don't have to go there to buy this container. As I said, I was in there looking at sofas and cushions, seeing the stand, and I said, you know what, that would be absolutely beautiful for our classes. So what I'm going to use foam wise is a half a block of foam. But I want the foam to come up over the container a little bit. So I have what we call a wedgie. It's kind of nearly like a thick slice of bread, isn't it? But it's floral foam. And I'm just going to place that down low to see into the bottom of the container. And then my half a block then, I'm just going to wedge down there kind of tightly. Now if anybody has joined us before, I normally like to kind of cut the corners off my foam, and I'm just kind of sticking them down into the container there. And I just kind of feel like for camouflaging and hiding the foam, it's a little bit easier when you're taking all the corners off. And so that's what I like to do. Now there's lots of florists watching there today, and they probably never did that, and that's absolutely fine. And again, I'd love a little bit of feedback. If there is florists watching, let us know. Are you a trimmer or a non-trimmer? So do you trim your foam, or do you just prefer to use it square on? Like people often say to me there's absolutely no difference, and there probably isn't. But when I entered the flower trade a long time ago, the tutor I had was a fella, and he recommended and advised us to always trim our frames, and that's kind of like what I do. So I'm now just adding some anchor tape, and I'm just kind of trimming it back, securing it in with some anchor tape, and there is like a bit of a groove on the edge of this container, and I'm just kind of like catching it into the groove. And now I'm just going to make a second piece of anchor tape going the opposite way. For anybody that's at home and they haven't got anchor tape, you could use sellotape. And it's not the same job, it's not the right thing. But again, we get a mixture of people here watching, and they probably have a container, could be an antique container that they have out in their garage or the shed. You might as well use it. And again, if you have something and you'd like a little bit of advice on it, like would it work or would it use, or how would you insert the oasis into that container, take a photograph of the container and post it in the comments below with your question, and as I said, I respond back to everybody. Now again, anybody that has just joined us here, welcome to the Wednesday live class. My name is Janette from Case Flower School, and today I'm going to do kind of more of a front facing arrangement. This could be used on a hall table, but it could also be used for weddings, maybe on a slightly larger scale. The turntable that I'm using today is available from AM Floral Sundries. If anybody is watching there, you might do me a favour, and if you put the @ sign and AM Floral Sundries, okay, it'll bring people directly to their page. And again, for anybody that's watching and would like to get maybe anchor tape or containers or floral foam, you can also buy that from Evergreen Silk Plants. So again, if anybody's watching, you might put the @ sign, put Evergreen Silk Plants, you know that way, and again, people can contact them to buy some floral sundries. Because again, that can be a big problem. People that like to do it at home for enjoyment, like most flower shops sell you the items, but there is a few odd cranky flower shops out there, shouldn't say that, but there's a few cranky florists out there and they won't sell you the items, you know that way, and sure, it's a disaster, you know that way. It is great when you can buy the stuff. Now, foliage wise, again, you could be watching this on YouTube at a different time of the year, but it's obviously late spring, early summer here in Ireland at the moment. And in Ireland, and it'll be the same in the UK, I'm not sure around the world, it's the growing season for the foliage. So a lot of the local suppliers don't cut their greenery. And even greenery that you have growing in your own garden, a lot of it is shooting at the moment. So we kind of say it has no sap in the foliage and it's not going to last any length. So what I'm going to use is a foliage called, I call it bottle brush, okay? That's not the proper botanical name, and I can't think off the top of my head what is the proper botanical name, but I'm sure Viv Bradford is watching there, and she runs a floristry group here on Facebook and on Instagram called the Floristry Coach, okay? And she's very, very well up on botanical names. So maybe Viv, if you're watching, you might do me a big favour there, and you might post up the proper botanical name. Or again, if we have Sue Whale watching. So again, Sue Whale is based in the UK, and she actually is the author of 2 books which we always recommend to buy. The Cut Flower book and also the Cut Foliage book. And again, she will have even the proper spelling and the pronunciation, okay, for these for the different foliages. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of foliage standing up at the back there to give us a little bit of height, and I'm then just going to bring a piece kind of either side, giving us that kind of like triangular shape. Now normally if I'm training florists like to do formal shapes, we keep within the imaginary line of the triangle. But today I kind of wanted to be a little bit more kind of informal. So when I'm adding in these extra pieces, you can see I'm going a little bit looser, and you'll see this from the back though, I will keep turning around so that you can see it. So I'm coming kind of like outside the imaginary lines, that it's not kind of as formal, it's a little bit wild and wonderful, hopefully a bit like myself. And again, for anybody that maybe wants to do these for weddings or again event decoration, this will probably work out for you. So again, keep your hands kind of towards the back of the floral foam when you're inserting these pieces, and it gives you plenty of space, because that's a big problem, is people kind of work a lot to the front of their floral foam, and then next of all it's all completely kind of filled up and they haven't got room for adding in any of the extra material. Now if there is anybody watching there and you're more interested in event decoration, we do have a module 4 course. It's not starting again till September, and again you could be watching this at a different time of the year now, remember. But it's a 4-week online program, and it basically concentrates on all large floral structures using foam and foam free. So whether it be arches or pillars or moon gates or columns, topiary trees, pedestals, traditional styles, modern styles, cascading arrangements, table garlands, suspended arrangements, candelabras, and I could go on and on and on. There's absolutely hundreds of videos, okay? And again, with all our courses, we supply all the flowers and all the materials. You're made a member of our Bloom Room. So our Bloom Room is kind of like a private Facebook group, you're right, where all the students that are attending that online program are all made a member of. And then each day, as well as having what we call the chats kind of with me to keep an eye on what everybody is doing and basically give them a kick in the bum if they're dozens, you know, they're keeping on top of everybody. But also it's where they get like their help and their support, and they can ask questions. But also as an extra for all our students, what we have is a private WhatsApp, and it's not a WhatsApp group, it's a one-to-one WhatsApp. So nobody else sees, hears, it's a one-to-one. What happens in the WhatsApp group stays in the WhatsApp group. Now what I've just done there is I've just went along the bottom of the container, and you can see I slightly let it hang down, and again our pieces are all different lengths, you know the way, an odd one a little bit longer and an odd one a little bit shorter, again to kind of keep that more looser, less formal sort of shape. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a lot of short pieces. So while I'm chatting away here to you, I'm just cutting up a lot of short pieces, and I'll explain what I'm going to do with them in a few minutes. Now, we're always giving away something for free here at Case Flower School. And one of the things, some of you have signed up for this already, but a lot of you haven't, okay? And we're always getting new people joining us. So we have a free online program that we can basically add you to if you would like. And it's an online program with over 60 different tutorials about the treatment and conditioning of all different types of cut fresh flowers and also foliage as well. It's well worth joining up. At the moment, it's completely free. In a couple of weeks' time, you're going to be charged for it, okay? So anybody that's interested, all you have to do is comment below that you would like the link. And again, we will contact you and we will give you that link. So just write in the comments below there, I'd love the link, give us the link, any chance of a copy of the link, use anything at all, but just use the word link and we know kind of what you're talking about. And we will then get you organised and signed up to the programme. So basically then when you sign up, you know what I mean, you'll be able to access your online course 24/7, okay? And it's all done alphabetically, so any flowers that you'd like a little bit more information on, like the longevity of it, the botanical name, the common name, what the flower means, how many days it's going to last, what sort of treatment and conditioning that flower needs, anything you basically need to know is going to be covered in that programme. Even things like where people have problems trying to get flowers open, I'm going to leave that one aside there, maybe how to get their peonies open or how to get their lilies open. So we would have all that as part of the programme, and you'll be able to pop in and out. And if you did have a flower, whether it was for a wedding or it's something that you maybe picked up in your supermarket or your local florist shop, and you just want to know how would you treat it or how would you condition it, you can just look it up alphabetically and you will be able to then listen to the short little video tutorial on how to condition it and how basically to make it last longer and what it would be suitable for. Is it more a wedding flower? Is it more for funeral wreaths? Is it a flower arranging flower? What flowers could you use with it? You know what I mean? And they're all the types of things that we cover on the online program. That's the free online program, by the way. So again, all you have to do is comment below that you'd like the link, you'd want a copy of the link, you'd love the copy of the link. Just use the word link and Sinead will respond to everybody later on. So you can see there, I just kind of greened it up, and I always like to look after what we call the Elwyn in the other bed. So the Elwyn in the other bed is the person who has to look at the back of that arrangement. Now I can add in more foliage later, but that's just what was on the table beside me, so I'm just going to leave it at that for the moment. I'll go back. Now flower wise, I have a couple of September flower or aster. Great thing about aster or September flower or Michaelmas daisy, it's available all year round, like not just in September. And again, if you go on to sign up to that online program that I was talking about there a while ago, you will be able to see, you know what I mean, again, the treatment and the conditioning of that particular flower, the longevity of it, and all the other varieties and the other colours that it's available in. So what I'm going to do, and I'll turn this around here in a second, okay, is I'm now just adding a couple of stems coming upright towards the centre of that arrangement, okay, giving us a little bit of height. Now because this is a demonstration class, I can't go into as much detail as I would in our commercial professional programs. Where the commercial professional programs, we have cameras in from all sides, so you're actually seeing the arrangement front on, and I'll be explaining in detail. But I can't give everything away for nothing, or should I be out of a job? But just in case you're wondering, like, what is the difference of the free classes and the professional classes, there's absolutely a huge difference there is. So again, I'm continuing on that line of September flower, like coming down through the centre. I'm kind of like using up a lot of these little short kind of like little side shoots, you know, that way. And I'm just kind of placing them down around kind of the bottom middle area of the arrangement, kind of down here. So again, just kind of adding a few of them in, just to give us a little bit of texture. They are quite fine, these stems, by the way, when you cut them up. And make sure if you're doing this at home, don't overpack the foliage too much, because I know I had no choice, I didn't overpack it, but you won't be able to get your stems in. You keep kind of hitting something. So I just brought this light line of September flower, aster, Michaelmas daisy down to the centre. And this is probably more popular in white daisy with a little yellow middle. Just if some of you are listening there and saying, "God, that doesn't look like the September flower," I know, because there is different varieties. Now what I have here today is some amazing peonies, okay? And they're just starting to blow, okay? They still have like lots of life on them. And that's really important when you're adding in a flower like this. Like I always get lots of questions. They're trying to get the peonies open. Now, a part of that free online program about the treatment and conditioning, I have loads of what we call magic tricks, okay? So I have like the top tips for getting them opening, and then I say, now hold on, now I'm going to show you the magic tricks that we do here at Kay's Flower School. So again, to get access to that, comment underneath that you're looking for the link, and you'll have the free access to watch all our magic tricks. So when I'm explaining to students, I'd say don't get them fully open. It'd be different if it's a wedding bouquet and we need them fully opened. But like when you're giving an arrangement as a present to somebody, or again for a display, isn't it nice for them to be able to see the flowers opening? Maybe this was going to go on a hotel receptionist desk. Wouldn't it be nice that each day there's something opening, you know what I mean? And whether it be the receptionist or even the guests in the hotel, they get the pleasure of watching the flowers open. Normally when you're buying in peonies, you have to buy them in fives. Even if you're buying them in your local florist, they probably sell them loosely. Well, what I meant to say, even if you're buying them in your local supermarket, you know, that way, you know, sometimes Super Value would have kind of peonies if they're in season. They're normally in fives. And normally they're kind of at different stages. And you can see here, there's kind of bigger ones and smaller ones. So the trick for this part of the arrangement, and again, obviously with our commercial programs, I can explain this in a lot more detail. But you normally start with the smaller flowers at the top, and you kind of finish with the bigger flowers at the bottom. And I normally say to my students, it's a bit like my body, okay? I have a small head, I have bigger boobs, and I have a big fat bum, or arse as we call it here in Ireland, okay? So I gradually get bigger as you move down my body. I'm smaller at the top, and I definitely get bigger and fatter as I work down. I want you to keep that in mind when you're doing your flower arrangements, okay? So grade out your flowers there on the table, and then make sure that you use the smaller ones at the top, and they're getting bigger, 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 all the way down to the bottom. So I've kind of picked this out as being kind of like one of the smaller heads, right? So I'm going to start with this one. Now each flower has its own, I'm just looking for the scissors there, has its own front and back. So make sure when you're inserting the flowers, you know, that way that you do have the front of the flower looking at you. Now you will notice with these peonies, I have a lot of the foliage removed. And that will be one of the things that I will instruct you on when we're talking about the conditioning and the treatment of the peonies. I will say is that the foliage drinks up a lot of water. But also what the foliage does is stops the water getting to the flower heads. And then people do wonder why their peonies are not opening, you know, that way. So it's really important that you remove a lot of the heavier foliage. So what I've started off is I placed a flower at the top of the arrangement, and now I'm going to place a flower at the bottom of the arrangement, and I'm using one of my larger heads now, and I'm going to place that one in, and it's kind of in there among like that line of September flower that I brought down to the centre. And now I'm going to go for kind of like my middle flower, do you know, that way. So again, one that's just, you know, starting to kind of like open up a little bit. And I'm going to place this around the halfway mark. Now again, you can choose to place it slightly angled to the left or slightly angled to the right. I went to the left hand side. I always seem to go to the left hand side. Now I'm going to go a little bit higher than that, and I'm going to place it to the right hand side. And each one of these flowers has a number, okay? And the flower that I'm actually putting in at the moment is actually called number 4. Do you know that way? And the first one that I put in, believe it or not, was called number 1. And the one I put in at the very bottom was actually called number 2. And my last flower now, I'm placing it between what I call the 3 and the 2, halfway, and again I'm placing it out to the right hand side. So the idea is that I've kind of zigzagged or staggered our 5 peonies kind of down through the centre of the arrangement, and that's kind of called making a line. Now there seems a lot of space at the moment with them peonies, but I know that they are going to blow and double up their size, you know the way, and get really big. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have like using some stock, and like the stock is absolutely amazing, like the scent of it is absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to do a line of stock coming out one of the corners of the arrangement. So again, I'm just going to cut this here, and I'm going to add it in down there kind of where our foliage was. Remember when I brought the foliage out to the corner earlier on? And then I'm going to cut another one a little bit shorter. I'm just kind of peeling back some of these leaves so I can actually see kind of my stem. So I'm just going to step it up a little bit shorter. And again, I'm actually glad I didn't overcrowd the foliage, you know, that way at the beginning, just so that I can see kind of what I'm doing. And then I'm going to add in a third one, kind of in behind that, Back a little bit further there, there's going to be a third one. And eeny, meeny, miny, mo, will I add a fourth one? I think I will. So I'm going to add a fourth one kind of coming in at the back again, just removing some of this foliage. Now again, a little tip for you with the stock. I'll turn this around in a second. With the stock, it is a water polluter, in that when you put it into a vase, it'll, you know, make the water go off very, very fast. So we do recommend change the water every day, but especially if you've mixed other flowers in with them. But they are an absolutely amazing flower just to kind of leave on their own. So what I've done there is I've created like a group of stock out to one side. Now there is a thing in floristry called like making a line, and if you want to, you could have another line of them out the opposite side, but I don't want to create a corner of a stock. So I'm probably not going to. I'm going to use the lisianthus, you know, the way over in the other corner. Now I have another couple. I put in 4 of the stocks already. I think I might add in our 5th one in there, kind of in the middle of it. And I'm going to cut one a little bit shorter. I'll show you now in a second what I'm doing. I'm inserting it towards the middle of the floral foam, but I'm letting it kind of trail over to that corner, do you know, that way, where I'm kind of doing that emphasized group of flowers. So that is just our group of stock. So again, you could substitute that for other types of flowers. You don't feel that you have to use exactly what I'm using. Again, if there's anybody watching and you're thinking there in your head, could I use this or could I use that? Absolutely, comment below. I respond back to everybody later on this evening. And again, for anybody that's joining us, okay, big welcome. Make sure that you comment where you're watching in from and what part of the country, do you know, that sort of way you are. And we always say, let us know what the weather looks like. Now on the opposite corner, I'm going to go for a flower called lisianthus, or eustoma is the proper name. I absolutely adore lisianthus. Now it is going to be a completely different flower, kind of like balance wise, but we're going kind of for a more modern design rather than a kind of a traditional kind of like design. So I absolutely love lisianthus in that when you buy it, what you see is what you get. So sometimes when you buy flowers, like say peonies, you know, that way, when you buy peonies, you're kind of wondering, will they open and how big will they be and how far will they open or how many days will it take for them to open, do you know, that way. When you buy lisianthus, you kind of know what you're getting, do you know, that way. So again, that kind of heading as I say, what you see is what you get, and it does, it works out brilliantly. Now again, you can be watching, and if you are taking notes, now remember, it's always a good idea, we just say, is to have a notebook and pen when we're doing these live classes, and then what you can do is write down exactly what I'm using. So far, I used up about 3 to 4 stems of the September flower. I used up 5 of the peonies. I used 6 of our stock, and I'm possibly going to use 3 to 4 stems of the lisianthus, just to kind of give you an idea. The foliage that I used, I'm going to use up these buds now in a moment. Again, we better turn it around and just let you have a little look at it so far. The foliage I'm using is called bottlebrush. There is a proper botanical name, and normally all my helpers that are out there, Viv Bradford or Sinead if she's watching, they post up the actual botanical spelling of it.
I think it's Castle Teeman or something like that,
isn't it? I can never pronounce it, and I definitely can't spell it, you know, that way. So in case any of you would like to go and purchase it for your own house, you know, that way, or your own garden is what I meant to say. So again, I'm just doing this line of lisianthus over the opposite side. Again, the botanical name is eustoma. And really good books to buy are the Sue Whale books. We're always talking about the Sue Whale books here at Kay's Flower School. So these are books that you can buy if somebody maybe puts the @ Sue Whale or puts the @ and puts Jago, J-A-G-O Publishing. They're based in the UK, and you can buy these books from them. And again, it gives you all the details. You can look the flower up alphabetically. It gives you its common name, the meaning of the flower, and how you can treat and condition it. Or again, if you have a flower and you're unsure which one it is, you can go to the pictures and you can actually find it. So they're absolutely brilliant books. She does have them in a set of 3, by the way. You have the pink one, which is the cut flower book, which I definitely recommend. You have the green one, which is your foliage book, and the orange one, the orange book on houseplants. I have a little bit of a glitch there, so hopefully you haven't lost me. So again, if anybody watching would do me a little favour, tag Sue Whale, @ Sue Whale, @ Jago Publishing, purchase the books directly from Sue, and that way if you're caught for customs coming into Ireland, she'll pay the customs for you because she can claim it back, and it works out cheaper for you, because really there shouldn't be any customs when you're bringing books in, you know what I mean, from the UK. Next I'm going to add in a little bit of the Veronica. So this is in a dark purple, and I'm going to add this up into the left hand corner of the display. So I'm going to keep the top of the arrangement kind of more light and airy, and that's getting kind of bulkier and heavier as it's kind of coming down. Again, a bit like my body, smaller at the top and larger at the bottom. And then also what I'm going to show you is with the peonies is I'm going to blow on them. So just to show you the bottom two peonies there where I've kind of blown into them and to see the difference. Now there is lots of other tricks that I've done to them peonies before I got them to that stage. But again, if I just kind of bring this down a little bit lower to me, to see the difference kind of to the peonies, you know, that way, where just to kind of give them a little bit of encouragement, but yet there is still plenty, you know what I mean, for the customer to see opening themselves. So what I'm going to do is up in the top left hand corner, I'm going to add in a couple of light stems of this dark purple Veronica. Now the Veronica does come in other colours, just to be aware, do you know that way? So we kind of have like a mixture, or sorry, I'm just going for the dark purple today, but when you go to buy it yourself, like you can get it in pinks and whites and kind of a paler lilac shade, you know, so it's like it's a great flower. And it's a flower that we would use a lot in bridal floristry, like for adding into wedding bouquets. It just gives a beautiful texture and a lovely dimension to the shapes, and especially with flower arranging, when you're looking kind of for different textures and different shapes in your arrangements, because obviously that's what makes them so much nicer. So I'm just adding these couple of stems, keeping them mostly to that left hand corner, working in among the peony a little bit, you know, that way. And then also just getting quite full here. I'm glad I didn't put too much foliage in. And again, I'm just kind of like inserting a little bit in from the back, but yet it can be seen giving us that little bit 3D effect. Now, because it's dark purple, I'm not sure when I turn it around, will you see it with the pink background? Hopefully you will, you know, that way. So again, it's keeping it nice and light and nice and airy over that side. Now the very last thing that I'm going to do is on the opposite side, but again keeping it kind of light enough, I'm going to add in a little bit of our astilbe. Now there's lots that I could tell you about astilbe, but probably haven't got an awful lot of time here. Now again, I hope everybody is clicking share, right? So we need you to share these videos, because what we try and do is every Wednesday is come on live at 12 o'clock to do a free class with you. But if we're not getting the interaction and we're not getting the shares, there's no point in us doing it, okay? So again, if you happen to be in a flower group, I'd really appreciate if you shared this tutorial to maybe one of your flower groups that you're in, or maybe your gardening club that you're in. Or again, even if it's just to share it to your own kind of like Facebook page, again, we'd really appreciate that. You know what I mean? It'd be brilliant. And again, like interact, like let us know where you're watching in from. Let me know, are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying this arrangement? Do you like it? Do you think you're going to copy it? And again, anybody that's watching, and maybe you might, you know what I mean, copy this arrangement over the next few days, post your photographs. Do you realise that we have a group called the Flowery Fun Group? And the Flowery Fun Group is where the general public, you know what I mean, it's not just professionals, okay? The general public, that you are more than welcome to post any of your work. Whether it's dabbling, whether it's a hobby, whether it's for fun, you know, that sort of way. We encourage everybody to post their work there. There's no critique, there's no feedback, there's no criticism. Everybody is doing it for the enjoyment. But again, I'd love to see some of your work, you know, that way, if you want to, you know, that way, post it up. As I said, you know what I mean, I won't be criticising it, you know, the way, or saying you should have done that. It's completely up to yourself. I definitely believe with flower arranging that like you do it for pleasure and you do it for the enjoyment. And yet there is rules and there's guidelines out there, but who says we have to do it? You know that way? Who said that we can't just do our own thing? It's completely up to yourself. So I've just added a little bit of the astilbe over to that far corner, and now what I'm going to do is go back to our buds of our lisianthus. And I'm going to add the buds of the lisianthus in and out between the Veronica on the opposite side, because even though this is purple lisianthus, there's kind of more of a green tinge of it. And again with the lisianthus, as I say, what you see is what you get, is more than likely the tighter buds won't open on them lisianthus. The ones that are kind of like rolled around, the bigger version of the bud, they probably will, you know, that way, but the real small tight ones won't. But they just add another shape, you know, that way, and another style to that arrangement. I absolutely adore them. And even in bridal work, like to add like the buds of the lisianthus in among your other flowers, you know, that way it can look really well. And to have them kind of bouncing over your flowers, you know, like where nowadays they're talking about the dancing bouquets. So just to have these little buds dancing over your other flowers, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So again, that is more of an informal triangle with a little bit of a kind of a modern twist where we've done kind of our grouping, you know, that way, but where we've kept our lisianthus, our astilbes, we've put the traditional line of peonies down to the centre. We have our group of stock and we have our group of Roniga. And obviously down to the centre of the arrangement, I have the aster. So again, if you do have any questions, absolutely comment below. And normally in the back of the arrangement, I put in what I call the Elwyn in the other bed. So any little short kind of offcuts, you can just kind of stick them into the back of the arrangement. Maybe you have a short little broken head. I know I'm cutting these off. And again, you can just add them into the back. Because remember I said this could be on a reception desk. Well, that now is giving the receptionist something to look at. Or again, if it was in a hospital, so this is where we often say the Elwyn in the other bed, and I happen to be in the nice bed on this side, and you are the Elwyn in the other bed, that's what you're looking at. So at least you have something nice to look at rather than the foliage. I hope everybody enjoyed that tutorial. Make sure to join us back here next Wednesday, same time, same place, 12 o'clock for another live class. And again, comment below what you'd like me to demonstrate and I'll try and facilitate you as much as you can. Bye bye and thanks for joining in.